welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be explaining how and why to quarantine snakes, and I will also be setting up a demonstration enclosure just to give you guys a basic idea of what that should look like. So the first thing is, what is quarantining a snake? And basically what it is when you get a new snake in, you're going to keep it in a very simple enclosure and keep it away from any of your other reptiles. And the reason you're doing this is so that you can monitor their droppings, their eating habits, make sure nothing like mites show up, and just make sure that they are overall healthy before putting them into another room with any of your other reptiles. Because if there are any issues, you're going to want to make sure that you deal with them before you run the risk of them spreading to your other snakes. So now that we've touched on what quarantine is and the basic idea of why we do it, I'm going to go ahead and show you a very simple demonstration enclosure just so that you have a basic idea of how to set one up. And I'll also go over how long to quarantine snakes. Now for today's video, I'm going to be using a plastic bin as my enclosure. You are more than welcome to use a glass terrarium if that's what you prefer. However, if you do decide to go with the tub, make sure that you get one with the positive locks. And I would honestly recommend getting one with locks on all four sides because I don't trust that a snake couldn't get out of this. However, I'm not actually putting a snake in this one today, so I'm just using this as a demonstration. Now the first thing you're going to want to set up is your heating, and I'm using a heat mat. If you have a snake that needs a basking light, I would recommend using an enclosure with a screen top because a basking light is unfortunately something you're not going to be able to use with a plastic bin. So I'm just going to go ahead and slide this under to the warm end. Remember to use a thermostat so you can monitor temperatures, but that's going to go ahead and be the warm end of this enclosure. Now we're going to go ahead and add some paper towels as our substrate. I know it's not the most attractive thing, but it is the most practical when it comes to quarantine because you're going to notice any mites or issues in their droppings. Just any health issues you're more likely to notice when they're kept on paper towels, but I would not recommend doing this long term. Now that you've got the paper towels in, you can go ahead and add a water dish and some basic enrichment. You're going to want to keep it pretty minimal because it's just easy to keep it clean and sterile without too much stuff. And again, if they do have something like mites, it's going to be much easier to see if there's not a ton of things in there. So first off, I'm just going to add a water dish and hideout. This one's a combo thing. I got it from Flukers, but we're going to go ahead and put that on the cool end. Then I'm going to put this little half log on the warm end just as a hideout. Then I'm going to go ahead and put a couple rocks in here for shedding because you want to make sure that they do go through at least one, if not two sheds while they're in quarantine. And then I'm also going to add just one plant just for a little extra enrichment. And otherwise, that's all I'm going to add. Again, you want to keep it pretty minimal so that you can monitor droppings and just their overall health. And again, if mites show up, it's going to be a lot easier to see without too much enrichment. So now that we've gone over how and why to quarantine snakes, you may be wondering how long you should quarantine your snake. And typically this is something you want to do for 60 to 90 days. If you end up with a wild-caught snake, I would recommend doing a bit longer because they do typically have more health issues and sometimes they may take a bit longer to show up. As I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure they go through at least one shed. Also make sure that they go through several feedings so that you can monitor their droppings after those feedings and make sure that there's no blood or anything concerning. And I think that about wraps it up for today, so thank you guys so much for watching. If you don't mind, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Also hop on over to Reptile Rave on Instagram and give me a follow there. I do appreciate it. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.